From a bird in a school play to the highest-paid actor in television, Jim Parsons' career has never slowed down, and he's been on quite the journey himself, too. Jim Parsons was born and raised in Houston, Texas. Even as a youngster, he gravitated toward the stage, landing his first role at the age of 6, playing a bird in an elementary school play.
A lot of people fall in love with it and demand to work in it one way or the other, come hell or high water. And I guess that's kind of how I felt.
His mother, school teacher Judy Parsons, had an inkling that her son would one day become a successful thespian, even at such an early age. Speaking to the Houston Chronicle, she recalled, he said he wanted to be an actor, movie star, from the time he was about 6 years old, and Parsons himself agreed, telling the publication, I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be an actor. I used to say movie star when I was younger, but I knew what I meant. Yet Judy was actually reluctant about his goals at first, being well aware of the instability and uncertainty that comes with life as an actor. She remembered, as his mom, I wasn't exactly sure that this was the most secure career path to follow, but I came to realize that it was the only path that would even come close to satisfying the passion he had in his heart for acting. Growing up, Parsons' desire to become an actor was inspired by the TV sitcoms that he and his family would watch together. Among his favorites were Three's Company and The Cosby Show. As he told the Houston Chronicle, where I am now, working on a television sitcom, is sort of coming full circle for me, as the first acting I was really exposed to and affected by was indeed the work being done on television sitcoms.
Work with me, Janet!
No, stop it!
I can't, I got the music in me. Strut with me, mama!
The comedic sensibilities he learned from those sitcoms came to fruition when, as a teenager, he was cast in a school production of the popular slapstick farce, Noise Is Off. Parsons later told the New York Times, all we had was each other and our very basic mastery of the play, but at our first performance we pulled together and relied on each other, and everything clicked. I felt totally comfortable in this warped world that was far away from the real world, and I wanted to keep doing it. After graduating high school, Parsons had to decide whether he should pursue acting professionally or move on to something that offered a regular paycheck. He told the Houston Chronicle, I had a couple of years after high school where I tried to leave it behind, largely due to my feeling that it seemed a risky career choice, but I quickly realized that I was very unhappy not acting and started majoring in theater at the University of Houston. At college, Parsons had to take at least one mandatory science course. He chose meteorology. For a period, he even flirted with the idea of becoming a weatherman. Sadly, his course was a bust. With theater consuming his life, he put little effort into studying meteorology and ended up with the only F grade of his entire life. It was during this time that Parsons began performing in university productions, more than 24 of them, in fact. He and some other young actors founded an experimental theater troupe, which they named Infernal Bridegroom Productions. Parsons blossomed as a performer by appearing in 17 wildly diverse productions during a 3-year period, ranging from classic musical Guys and Dolls to German expressionist plays.
Looking back, it does sound crazy, but it was heaven. Of course it was heaven.
Speaking to the Houston Chronicle, he recalled, there's no learning like the doing. When you're doing that many different types of things on that many types of stages, you don't know the effect it has while you're doing it. After earning his degree from the University of Houston, Parsons headed to the University of San Diego to study for a master's degree in cooperation with the city's famed Old Globe Theater. The course's director, Rick Sear, initially had doubts about accepting Parsons into the prestigious 2-year program, in which just 7 students were invited each year. Sear later told University of San Diego magazine, Jim is a very specific personality. He's thoroughly original, which is one reason he's been so successful. But we worried, does that adapt itself to classical theater? Does that adapt itself to the kind of training that we're doing? But we decided that he was so talented that we would give him a try and see how it worked out. Luckily, Parsons excelled and soon earned his MFA. At that point in his life, though, he faced yet another question. Should he take what he learned about acting and utilize it within an academic setting, or set out to become a full-fledged actor? Parsons told Newsweek, I really loved school. If they offered a doctorate in acting, I'd still be there. It was so safe. I went to grad school. I kept going as long as they'd have me. Ultimately, Parsons decided to throw caution to the wind and pursue his dreams. After moving to New York, it didn't take him long for him to land roles in off-Broadway productions. It was in New York City that Jim Parsons' fledgling acting career really took root. In addition to off-Broadway stage roles, he also began scoring on-camera jobs. Among the first of these was a TV commercial for the Quiznos sandwich chain, with Parsons playing a guy who'd been raised by wolves. Judy Parsons later told the Houston Chronicle, the first time I saw Jim on TV, it was in commercials. You don't know when commercials are going to come on, so we would just happen to catch him in one occasionally, and when we did, we would scream, Jim's on TV, and make everyone else come into the room. Before long, he began landing guest starring starring roles on TV, including the comedy series Ed and a recurring role in courtroom drama Judging Amy. Around this time, Parsons also started to land small roles in films, like the 2004 romance Garden State.
I don't know if it's the very first movie role I ever had. It was certainly the most visible anything I had done.
It was an audition for an upcoming television sitcom, however, that would soon change his life forever. Chuck Lorre was blown away when Jim Parsons auditioned for the role of Sheldon Cooper on his new sitcom, The Big Bang Theory. Speaking about Parsons' audition, Lorre told the Houston Chronicle, "We knew we were witnessing something astonishing. He's a force of nature. He really is that good." Interviewed by USA Today, Lorre pointed to Parsons' precision and physicality. He said, "I've never seen someone come along like this, with so much uncanny skill and intuition." If it seemed to Lorre that Parsons understood Sheldon completely, it was because the actor had already found a connection with the character. Parsons told the Houston Chronicle, "I felt very strongly about the structure of it and the way they laid out the character and the way he talked. It was a 1 in a million match." For Parsons, the key to unlocking Sheldon was his tendency to say whatever popped into his mind without any regard for how it might affect other people. He told NPR, "He says things all the time that could hurt someone's feelings. He doesn't check it through a filter and go, 'Oh, they'll be fine with this.' He skips that barrier completely. He just says it." In 2011, Parsons made his debut on Broadway. At the height of his Big Bang Theory fame, he appeared in the play The Normal Heart. Soon after, he won a Theater World Award for his performance.
Oh my God, it was such a wonderful experience. It was such a meaningful play, The Normal Heart.
Parsons enjoyed his return to the stage so much that he was back the following year to star in a Broadway production of Harvey. Initially a hit back in the 1940s, the play was adapted into a 1950 feature film starring James Stewart. As Parsons told the New York Times, he prepared for the role with the same level of precision that he'd been bringing to Sheldon Cooper. He said, "I try to master every facet of a character in order to build a safety net for myself so I can go on to take more risks, to create someone really distinct. If I'm not making a choice with each and every line, then why are you bothering watching me?" Parsons returned to Broadway in 2015 to play the title character in An Act of God. Speaking about playing the Almighty on stage each night, Parsons told Variety, "It's like having a mild drug trip, completely sober, for an hour and a half. It's as much fun and as much terror as I've ever had at one time." In Parsons' 2012 interview with the New York Times to promote Harvey, one sentence stands out. Mr. Parsons is gay and in a 10-year relationship.
It's just who I am, you know.
Up to that point, Parsons had never commented on his sexuality, a fact that he addressed a decade later. In 2022, he told Variety, "I grew up in a time where the first thing I think of every time on this topic is when Ellen came out. As much as it helped ultimately, it was also scary as a gay person who wanted a career for themselves, in the same road, in the same industry." Speaking with The Hollywood Reporter, Parsons admitted that, while he wasn't hiding his sexuality, he was afraid about the impact it might have on his career. He recalled, "I was scared that it might cause trouble, quote unquote, for our big television show." Ultimately, Parsons' fears were unwarranted. The news of his coming out made brief headlines before fading quickly. He later said, "It got picked up, and it was briefly a thing just as far as like there was some news to it or whatever. But it faded away pretty damn quickly and was kind of not a big deal." Parsons married his long-term partner, Todd Spiewak, in 2017. They're still together to this day. As the popularity of the show continued to grow, the cast of The Big Bang Theory began to earn a whole lot of money. By the final season, Jim Parsons had become the highest-paid actor on television, earning $26.5 million during a 12-month period concluding in June 2018. That was a big bump from the first season, when Parsons had only been paid $60,000 per episode. All told, he reportedly earned a staggering $177.7 million from his 10 seasons on The Big Bang Theory.
Bazinga.
A 2017 Variety report claimed that some of the show's cast, Parsons, Johnny Galecki, Kaylee Cuoco, Kunal Nair, and Simon Helberg, were all earning $1 million per episode. Yet Mayim Bialik and Melissa Rauch were making considerably less, with a fee of $200,000 per episode. In order to address that disparity, Parsons and the other 4 actors agreed to a $100,000 per episode pay cut for the final 2 seasons, with the resulting $500,000 split between Bialik and Rauch to bump up their salaries. While that might all seem like a lot of money, it was still peanuts compared to how much the show was making. In that 2017 article, Variety estimated that The Big Bang Theory had earned $1 billion in syndication revenue, and it still had 2 seasons left to air. The end of The Big Bang Theory provided Jim Parsons with ample opportunities to spread his wings, both in front of and behind the camera. His production company, That's Wonderful Productions, was behind Special, a Netflix comedy series about a gay man with mild cerebral palsy. The company also produced Call Me Kat, a sitcom starring Parsons' ex-Big Bang Theory co-star, Mayim Bialik. Parsons also took on more acting roles, often playing characters that were as far from Sheldon as possible. He played a gay man who lost his partner to cancer in the Netflix film Spoiler Alert. He was also cast in Hollywood, a high-concept period drama by Ryan Murphy. In that show, Parsons portrayed a predatory talent agent hiding his sexuality while engaging in Hollywood's infamous casting couch culture. His performance won him his 9th Emmy nomination. And in late 2024, Parsons returned to Broadway, joining co-stars Katie Holmes and Zoe Deutsch for a revival of Thornton Wilder's classic play, Our Town. Appearing on Today, Parsons admitted that signing on for one of the all-time great American plays was a no-brainer.
I was like, this is one of those opportunities when somebody comes and asks you to do it that I feel as an actor, you just do it.